We are going to talk about the future and give a critique of commercial agriculture, and we are going to start that by talking about Malthus. There are two readings associated with this module. You see them listed on their slide. They are also linked in our description to this video. One gives a brief description of Malthusianism, and the other one is a link to Julian Simon, an article about him who happened to be a University of Illinois professor. Malthus was not a utopian. In fact, he was very much not a utopian, and he wrote a series of essays on the principles of population. Again, he was not a utopian, and what he believed was that food supply would grow arithmetically or linearly, and population would grow exponentially. And here you see a representation of that. Food needs for the population would increase exponentially. And again, population grows exponentially. If you say we need standard or calories per person, that population food needs would increase exponentially as well. And then eventually food needs would surpass food supply. Because again, food supply was growing at a linear rate. So that was basically Malthus's argument. He suggested some fairly dire, or if you will, control measures. One were what he called positive checks, which were hunger, disease, and war, and basically those would kill people so that would keep population down in check. And then he had some various preventative checks, which included abortion, birth control, postponement of marriage, and celibacy, everything that would keep babies from getting born. He also, and this is sort of interesting from our perspective because we've talked about free trade a lot, he supported restricting importation of grain. So he did not, and he's from England, so he was saying if we have food shortages, don't import grain and don't export it as well. Deal with it through famine. As an aside, he did not support public welfare because he believed it fostered more poor. So you see some of the arguments here. Malthus was actually a clergyman, so you can sort of build whatever case you want to be made. But he's a very famous economist. He had a number of critics. One of his earliest was Ricardo, and they had a running dialogue. If you want to read about that dialogue, there's an article listed on the right by Robert Dorfman. They had arguments and carried on a friendly exchange for many years, but Ricardo's argument, at least as related to population or food needs, would be that rents would increase, and that would bring in land into production, and we would meet our food needs. One of the important things about Malthus to note is that it has not happened. We have not seen famine because of agricultural shortages. We've seen famine because of social disruptions, but not because we have not been able to feed the world. And this then leads to a continuing debate among individuals. It's not happened yet and will not happen in the future. That I would call the growth crowd. And the Neomarthians would say, just wait. It's going to happen in the future. Neomarthians advocate certain things, and you actually see these today. They advocate population control. So much of the population control advocates are Malthusians. They would advocate sustainability, and they're much believers in peak oil. We're going to reach peak oil, and we're going to reach peak food as well. So there is a debate. You have Malthus, who said we are going to face dire concerns in the future, and the growth people that would say we are not going to face those situations in the future.